The Square Ball Podcast.
Propaganda is brought to you by Levi Solicitors. You can get a 10% discount on your legal fees at levisolicitors.co.uk/the square ball. Time running out as well for you to get 15% on conveyancing before the end of September 2021. I'm Dan Moylan. With me is Michael Normanton.
Hello.
And so is Moscow White's Daniel Chapman.
Hello.
Propaganda is where we find out what's been said about Leeds United. In the first part of the show, we talk about what you've been saying about Leeds United. We get feedback from our TSB Plus subscribers. There's a form sent to them in the wake of each match ball that we do. This is the stuff that they picked out from the match ball and from the game itself against Newcastle, which feels like ages ago now. Happened on Friday. So where do we want to start on this? Let's go on the attack. Why not?
Who are we attacking?
Well, Moscow probably is the obvious one, isn't it? Because he's the most optimistic.
Well, I mean, I was going to start attacking Mike Dean, actually, because when I spoke to you...
Literally, are you going to go after him?
Not probably. I saw how strong he is when he barged that Newcastle player to the off the ball. I'd not seen the penalty when you spoke to me on Friday night. What? It's one of the most obvious penalties in the world, and if VAR are not intervening in that, why are they intervening in pretty much everything else I see them intervening in?
It seems like the clear and obvious error wording has now become a thing to hide behind for VAR, because that was a penalty, wasn't it?
Yeah, it seems so obvious that it just became dismissed. There weren't really any replays of it after the game. They had a brief one at half-time when the others kind of shrugged and went, yeah, that probably should have been a penalty. And then I think it's Ref Watch, isn't it, where I'm not sure that Stephen Warnock and Sue Smith, two ex-Leeds players, are necessarily the most unbiased gallery of people, but there's Dermot Gallagher as well, all just going like, yeah, penalty that. Yeah. So it's almost like there's because there's not much you can say about it, it's not one that you can replay over and over, and it doesn't involve a scum player, so it's not very exciting for anybody to kind of debate over and over. It's just a penalty, so what more can you say? Should have been a penalty.
Yeah.
So give us a penalty.
Aidan, Jimmy, Matt, Ryan, all picking holes in this one, and Ryan expands upon this, and he's sort of saying, what is the sweet spot? Will we ever find it for VAR? Because it either does nothing or it's completely over the top, and nobody seems to know quite how to use it just yet. And I think the closing words of his sentence are pain in the arse, which, yeah, I get it.
And highlighting as well, like the Kyle Walker thing this weekend, where it seemed not anything like as obvious an error as not giving the Dan James one, but then it got looked at endlessly and eventually was overturned. And even after that, there is still a lot of debate as to whether it was the right decision or not. Whereas I don't think anyone would have looked at the Dan James one and gone back and said, "Oh no, that he's dived there," or it was a tangle of legs or whatever. It just is a foul. I can't see any other way interpretation of it.
Just to draw a parallel, you know when Calvin Phillips, he got that yellow card in the Poland game, wasn't it, after about 7 minutes, because the referee adjudged that he'd gone in with his feet up and he landed on the guy's foot when he scooped the ball out with his studs on his foot. So if that's a booking in that game, you've then got to look at this situation with Dan James, who ended up getting studs on his feet as the guy came in for the ball there. Didn't get the ball. Dan James nicked it away, and we didn't get anything. Weird, isn't it?
We didn't even get a foul. So
yeah.
And that's the difference, is the referee in the England game saw a foul and gave a card. Here, Mike Dean has not seen a foul and given nothing, and I think that's where the question about the VAR sweet spot moves away from the technology and to the personalities. They probably would have mentioned it if the audio feed is given to the Sky commentators and they can hear what's going on, and if the VAR referee was screaming down the microphone from Stockley Park, "Dean, you've fucked this up, give a penalty for that, you idiot." And he's, "No, I've seen it, I know what I saw." Whether there's an element of that and whether personalities come into play, because can you contradict Mike Dean? I mean, Mike Dean didn't even flinch when Newcastle players are trying to barge him out of the way so they can actually get to the ball. I don't imagine the referees on watching the video footage get much mileage out of saying to him, "I think you should look at that again." I don't. I'm Mike Dean.
And I've been in Ted Lasso.
I've seen it. And he had seen it. He was standing right there looking straight at it. So you are relying on somebody watching a video feed to tell him, "This, you've made a clear and obvious error that you were just staring right at. Why haven't you given a penalty for that?" And whether anybody can stand up to Mike Dean and actually tell him these things, and if you do, whether he listens, I wonder how much of that comes into play.
I mean, never mind this agreement and bonhomie in the studio. Please, Moscow, stop defending Tyler Roberts, says Kevin C. He's consistently proven himself incapable of affecting games like this at this level.
For the benefit of the audio listeners, there was a shrug,
a resigned shrug.
I mean, Craig B as well says we have to talk about Tyler Roberts. We really don't. Like, there's nothing on this sheet. Michael collates all the comments from people coming in. Nothing about how well Rodrigo played. 90 minutes of brilliance from Rodrigo. His best game in a Leeds shirt, in my opinion. A week after he'd been written off and everyone said he can never play behind Bamford as a number 10, and he was superb in that role all night. No, we have to talk about Tyler Roberts, because you know what there aren't enough of on the internet? Opinions about Tyler Roberts. Half an hour as a substitute and he was shit. I wrote it in my match report and I think it said enough. He came on, he did 2 good things, 5 bad ones. The end. But he was fine against Scum when he came on, affected a game, made a great chance for Raphinha, and he was all right against Liverpool for the 15 minutes before the red card put him into a defensive role, when he was winning more tackles in midfield. That was the main thing he did against Liverpool. So he was affecting the game that way by stopping players running through the midfield when him and Bamford just dropped in. But yeah, he came on for half an hour and he was rubbish. I don't care about Tyler Roberts as much as anybody thinks I do. I just don't understand the constant preoccupation of, there were at least 990 cumulative minutes of football played by all our players on Friday night. But what we really need to concentrate on is the fact that in 6 weeks of the season, Tyler Roberts has not become Van Basten. Like, I don't expect him to be much better than he plays. It's like, he is what he is. He's a backup player, comes on. Sometimes he's all right at Old Trafford. Sometimes he's terrible like he was at Newcastle. Big deal. It just doesn't matter.
To defend people not talking about Rodrigo, he receives, as a spoiler, he does receive a huge amount of hero nominations in the main podcast. So people have not really talked about it, because I think we covered it, didn't we? A bit. I was drunk.
I think so, yeah. We certainly touched on it. Let's assume we did. I can't remember. A lot's happened since Friday. It's now Tuesday as we record this, so no idea. Probably we did. Let's just assume we did. Anyway,
but there are bigger problems as well. Like, why can't Raphinha finish easy chances? That had more influence on this game than it did anything that Tyler Roberts did when he came on. Bamford as well. Bamford wants to be an England international striker and wants to win another cap. He's got to finish chances like the one Rodrigo set him up with the through ball. They're the starting players. Tyler Roberts is a reserve, and he's either, all that's going to happen to him this season is by the end of it, he'll either be a lot better than he has been in his career so far, or Gelhardt will take his place. So we're in a no-lose situation. We'll either have a brilliant Tyler Roberts or a brilliant Joffrey Gelhardt, and if neither of them make the grade, we'll go and buy a player with the money that we didn't spend this summer. So who fucking cares?
I mean, on the one hand, I do agree with you, but that's no fun, is it? And anyway, Michael has been in touch to suggest that it's time to simply listen to Moscow. Well, no, clown. Not sure why you pound the perpetual injury threadbare squad. This is me he's talking to, by the way. Transfer strategy drum when the players on the pitch tonight were all quality, experienced first-team players who failed to take their chances and should easily have been 2 or 3-0 up at the half. Does that mean at half-time?
His words.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, I mean, fine. I accept that as a criticism, but also would also like to say that Ding has picked me out as well and wants to say, I want to say, sorry, we're in the shit because of the lack of midfield in squad, blah, blah, square pegs, round holes, etc. But I usually stop just short of saying what needs to be said, being slightly circumspect. Moscow, on the other hand, won't concede there are serious issues brewing. I don't really get his reluctance.
Because that's not what I think. That's why I don't say it. And let's define serious issues. Are we getting relegated this season? Of course we're not getting relegated this season.
It was picked up as well by Sinking Feeling, who's been messaging. He's now Sinking Feeling's cousin, Perpetual Worry, which is a very long name to have to say every time. But he was highlighting us, saying after every game we have a tendency to pick out the opposition's best player and say, well, how's X meant to cope here? But we're in this league now, so we need to find ways to cope with it. And it's not good enough to just go, well, Salah's good, St. Maximin's good, they're bound to score.
I mean,
which is fair.
We did cope with St. Maximin apart from the goal.
Apart from the bits where he ran at us with the ball.
But then nothing came of that.
I mean, it did.
could have done, though.
Well, it could have done. Of course it could have done. Anything can happen on a football pitch. But second half, all he did, there was one run similar to the one he scored from, but he was blocked, so there wasn't a goal. And then there was the one where Luke Ayling had done his ankle but hadn't come off yet, so he missed that header and it flew backwards off his head, and then he's in behind, and Ayling managed to get back to stop him anyway. And then there was Cooper, timed that perfect tackle to stop him from doing anything, and that was basically all he did in the second half. So yeah, we let him have one, and we should have done better with that, and there was some other dangerous moments, but they came to nothing. It's not like, you know, he ran us ragged and scored 7. We coped with him in the second half with a makeshift defence, and it's not like, I don't think it's in the same bracket as Salah, who is one of the, you know, best players in Europe, if not the world, where you have to sort of concede a bit of ground to him, especially when he's supported by the cast he has around him at Liverpool, who are all brilliant. Saint-Maximin is a different deal, where is there one good player, and yeah, we fucked up to let him score once. Rest of the night, he didn't do it again.
I do like Sarah Ann's comment about the state of things, because a lot of the comments actually just tap into the mood, whether, you know, on the more favourable, happier side and optimistic, or just slightly pessimistic. Sarah Ann being quite circumspect, asking, wonder if a big part of all our collective malaise is realising how hopeless the Premier League is. That was at the root of my misery following Liverpool, was thinking, we're so far behind them, and it's such a gulf to try and close, that it almost feels like it's too far away, if you like. The amount of money they've spent, like, you know, the song "The Reds have got no money but we're still going to win the league," and we broke it down, £500 million spent on that team. It's like, wow, it's just frightening, isn't it, the whole thing? I
think Sarah Ann's point is a good one, and she expresses it well, where she says she'll be thrilled just to play well and avoid a relegation battle, but it's sobering to realise that without huge and unlikely structural changes to the league, our best case scenario is mid-table. I think that's where I fit in with things like Tyler Roberts, and with things like not being bothered about losing 3-0 to Liverpool, because when I came in here straight after the Liverpool game, it was like all your pets had died and you found out that for as long as they were alive, they hated you. The mood was incredible. Whereas I was just like, and I get accused of having this kind of rosy optimism, and I don't face up to reality, and I don't see what serious issues are blowing. Who expected us to beat Liverpool? That's the unrealistic expectation.
I mean, I predicted it.
Yes,
but I'm a fool.
Idiots.
Exactly. The unrealistic expectation is doing better than losing 3-0 to Liverpool. And to be honest, if it hadn't been for the red card, 2-0, and even when we were down to 10, it took Sane until the 100th minute.
Sane,
who plays for Bayern Munich.
Sadio Mane to score in the at the end. So
I'm glad we derailed your point then by getting the wrong name.
2-0.
That was fun.
2-0 defeat to Liverpool is absolutely the realistic expectation for a team like us, second season out of the Championships. That's what I expect. So that's why I come in, and I'm not upset or annoyed or angry or refusing to face up to reality, imagining that we can somehow beat Liverpool easily off the cuff every time we take to the pitch. That's unrealistic. That's rosy optimism.
Jackie was picked out by Pete specifically. He says, we missed Harrison so much, which didn't really get talked about too much in the wake of this, because everyone, like, you know, toys out of the pram, bigger problems and all that kind of thing. I realised watching James, who was still okay, try to take on players and use his first touch, just how good Harrison is. He was a bargain at 11 million. I think we win a game like that if he plays. Do you tend to agree with that? He makes the difference there just slightly.
He has quietly become one of our most important players, hasn't he? I think from the first season when people wanted Jack Clark to play instead of him, through the promotion season of last year, he just does seem to edge a tiny bit better. I mean, he's got COVID, hasn't he? Is that his?
Yes.
Well, he's got a positive COVID.
Confirmed.
He's got a positive COVID test. We don't know yet whether it's actually afflicted him.
Are you denying COVID exists? Are you saying the tests are wrong?
Just for the sake of the algorithm here, of course I'm not.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen
and I'm not.
No, and you're not.
I'm not a swivel-eyed lunatic.
I mean, I've seen him on Instagram. He's still running on a treadmill and stuff with his
deep fake,
ludicrously attractive girlfriend and his marvelous life that he has.
I've seen his dog.
Yeah, part of that.
Not that we envy his life at all.
I mean, he's a good-looking and talented boy. He deserves it, doesn't he?
Yeah, you don't resent him, do you?
No.
But always remember that he's friends with Frank Lampard Jr. So his life isn't perfect.
Well, we'll get onto them all over the course of this week and have a little chuckle at their expense. Anyway, talking about chuckles and expenses, Steve Bruce, Dan Ogden was pleased to pick this one out, and a number of people picked up on this on Twitter. You know, the little clip of the close-up on the touchline when Newcastle changed their shape a bit, because it seemed that they were like 3-5-2 initially, and then they went to a back four, which is what stifled us after that half an hour where we ran rampant. And it was the ass man, Graham Jones, who also sits on the bench for England and is the ass man for Southgate. Him and Matt Ritchie just basically pushing Bruce out of the way and saying, "Listen, we'll sort this out, Steve. You don't know what you're doing."
They were all talking at once, weren't they? And you could see him trying to just tune out Bruce, because it was Ritchie, Bruce, and then Jones, wasn't it? And Bruce at the side, and you can see him he's looking at Jones going, I'm trying my best to just ignore what the fat man's saying at the side. You
know what you were saying in the wake of this, Moscow? You didn't quite understand why he's still there. What's the point of any of this? I watched it, and I don't know if it's because I'm getting softer in my old age or whatever, but I started to view him through human eyes during that game when they're all chanting that they wanted him out, and I thought, poor man. It did pass, admittedly, and then I thought it was tremendously funny, but on a human level, why is he there?
You've just got to remember, when you have any sympathy for him clinging onto that job, think of all the jobs that he's walked out on to get another one, where he's been like 2 months at Crystal Palace and he thinks he's got a better job elsewhere, and he just leaves. So that was the irony of him saying on the eve of this game, says, I won't walk away from a battle. No, but you'll walk away. If somebody offers you some more money, you'll be off like a shot. The only problem he's got at Newcastle, the reason he's stuck there, is because nobody's ever going to offer him another managerial job ever again. Certainly not for more money. So he'll just sit there until somebody...
He'll end up at Derby.
Finally gets him out there. Whatever's left of Derby. Yeah.
I mean, I guess he might get more money if he goes abroad. So if he goes to managing Qatar or somewhere, but... Can you imagine I was going to say, can you imagine the sweat rings the second he steps off that plane?
I mean, shares in talcum powder through the roof. Mind you, don't knock talcum powder. Very good. It's great during the summer months.
Let's for dancing on.
Yes, let's do something positive and talk about Meslier. And Katie and Nigel both picked out Meslier's excellence. Yeah, he's become quietly very, very steady and brilliant. He seems to, and I know I'm totally cursing him by saying this, but having almost eliminated those daft errors out of his game. I know we occasionally see them, but he's in a position where he has to take a lot of risks anyway. The style of the football demands it, but he's looked really, really steady, I think, in the Premier League so far.
And some very good saves in this game. The one, I know it was a near post and the whole thing about keepers should never be beaten at the near post, but that Saint-Maximin shot at the near post, he hit that really, really hard.
He's been listening to you, hasn't he?
He really did kick it very firmly. And Kiko in net, I mean, or Bailey Peacock-Farrell, that is a goal. Like, there's not a shadow of a doubt. They're not even getting a hand to that. Peacock-Farrell's trying to get a hand to it once he's been nestling in the back of the net for 5 or 6 seconds. So saves like that, and there was another one he did with a shot across goal that was pretty good. And at some point he will make a mistake, and everyone will go, "Oh, is he too young? Is he naive? Is he not? Do you need a more experienced goalkeeper?" But
it's risk versus reward, isn't it?
But we've got to this stage of the season, and he's been brilliant. I don't think he's put a foot wrong so far.
He did his mistake for France under 21s, didn't he? So that helps, and also one in pre-season as well. So he's quite good at managing where he makes his mistakes, which only adds to his excellence.
Like, if he does it, I mean, we're recording ahead of the Fulham game, the League Cup game tonight. If he plays in that game, if he wants to make a mistake there, get it out of the way there.
Chuck one in.
It's fine. We're not asked. In fact, Tom Cole's gone into bat for you, Michael. I think he's a fool, but I'll read it out anyway. He says, "No need to worry, is there? We're still creating the chances. All we need is Michael up at Thorpe Arch for some kick it really hard at the goal, but not at the goalkeeper," very specific, training, and we'll be back in business.
The work I've done with Gelhardt this week is there for all to see.
What did you tell him?
You know what I told him. Kick it really hard. Kick it really hard at the goal.
I do, yeah, but you know,
ideally to where the keeper isn't. But I think Gelhardt actually, he can kick it that hard. He can probably kick it out the goalkeeper, and it just go with him. Yeah, there was the Bamford one, wasn't there? I think his standing foot did slip. If you watch the replay of it.
Stop making excuses.
He's got shit boots on.
We're not allowed to make excuses or give them any kind of license anymore.
And Click, I think, had a couple from memory that were kind of half chances from the outside of the box, which he didn't quite catch cleanly, did he? Which is, I mean, Click is pretty good from that sort of a range normally, so can probably forgive him. But yeah, there were a number of missed chances, and as Moscow said, there was the Raphinha one, which then was followed by the Dan James one, which was then followed by the Firpo one, which was probably the worst miss of them all, because that was essentially just volleying the ball into an empty goal.
I still feel Raphinha, with the talent he's got, like Firpo's a left back, so you don't know how many times he's going to be volleying into the top corner.
He didn't need to volley into the top corner. It was an almost empty goal.
Well,
He just needed to control it into the net.
What did Raphinha need to do?
The same.
Just shoot. And Raphinha is a forward attacking player who we expect goals from. I don't expect Junior Firpo's going to win this season on 15 goals. I would like Raphinha to, but I'd like him to stick that one away. I'd also like him to stick away the one at Old Trafford that who cannot be named, settle for him.
Coming for Raphinha, who's scored a couple, set up some.
Well,
Tyler Roberts, absolutely don't lay a glove on him.
Nope. Well, it's because I'm more worried about the starting players, and I'm not even worried about them, I'm sure. I do wonder why Raphinha didn't take that one earlier, why he let them get back, because it wasn't even like he was putting it onto his other foot. He was absolutely fine with the chance it was set up. He didn't gain anything from delaying. So I wonder, and he's such an aggressive player as well. You'd think
wallop
it into the net, and that's what it is there to do. So I wonder why that's not there for him, and would like it to be. But yeah, and then the Bamford one, fair enough, he slipped, but he's only scored that one at Burnley, hasn't he, this season?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a tap in. So maybe Roberts needs to start. No, I don't mean that. But I think those moments in this game had more influence on us not winning than anybody coming off the bench. And is Somerville in the heroes?
Well, listen/watch and find out.
Is he just
Don't
ignored?
give the game away. Don't give the game away.
I don't think he got a mention particularly. Maybe someone might have said it was nice to see him make his debut.
Hey, listen, Clicky got a mention. Sazzy and Nathan both mentioned
We're never
Click.
going to be able... I thought Somerville did all right.
Yeah, you were going to slate him. You were going to say Tyler Roberts had done a better job.
Which is the best winger.
Somerville probably did better. And there was Firpo, like the Firpo discussion as well, is worth having briefly, because he's... mentioned Mike says he makes us less potent down the left, and I watched the game back because there was a lot of criticism of Firpo during the game, so I watched it again the next morning to identify this shocking performance. I thought he was really good. I think he played very well, and he set up the goal. One of the things that Bielsa's been saying we've not been doing enough this season is winning the ball in the opposition's half and creating a chance, and that's how the goal came. Junior Firpo wins the tackle.
You were going to say Tyler Roberts. That's your reflex, isn't it?
Junior Firpo wins the tackle, passes the ball to Calvin, ball to Bamford. Bamford gets the assist for passing to Raphinha. So he did that, and then he was there to set up the one that Raphinha should have scored from, leads the counter-attack, and then is still up there for the one he volleyed over. And then he's right there at the end of the game when Click nutmegs some fool in the Newcastle defence, and he pulls it back. And again, Bamford kind of stands behind the defender, even though Firpo is at the byline pulling the ball back to him. And Gary Lineker gets in front of the defender and scores in that situation, I think. So there's a little bit
He's
more.
over 60, Moscow. What are you on about?
Even then, Wayne Lineker gets in front of the defender, particularly if there's...
No.
And I think one of the differences is... having looked at him a little bit more, he's being compared with Alioski for that kind of storming down the outside. Firpo so far seems to like coming inside from left back, and then he's playing balls out to the wing for whoever's there. So it's a slightly different way of doing things, but it's becoming more effective, I think. And I really didn't see anything wrong with how he played against Newcastle.
I think Ethan... He says Firpo is brilliant, but also awful. I think there are moments of that in him.
The booking was ridiculous. Like, that was one of the stupidest things I've seen a footballer do. But even that felt like, because we mentioned on the match ball that the ball was given to him from a free kick in our half when we're trying to set up an attack, and he kind of strolls forward, gets tackled, and then brings the player down. And it looked to me like a player used to being in Barcelona's reserves in the B team, who probably plays in like La Liga 2 or whatever, having loads of space, nobody pressing him, and then suddenly he's got some Geordie maniac on his face trying to get the ball off him. So those kind of things that he needs to get used to, it's cliche, isn't it? Get used to the pace of the Premier League and the intensity, but it's reality when he's just been pissing around at Barcelona doing sod all for 2 seasons. That'll take a while to get up to, but I really didn't see anything.
Right, Moscow, we've got a request
wrong.
for you then to close out this part of the show.
Is it to sing?
Just no, while you sat there in your Tyler Roberts pyjamas, Steve Ovenden says, just tell me that everything will be okay, because it definitely will, right?
It should be. I don't think anything's badly wrong apart from loads of injuries, and even then, like the positivity, the positive side of having so many injuries and problems is all those players that we want to see graduating from the under-23s and now just getting that little bit closer to the first team. Somerville made his debut. People have been crying out for weeks, when are we going to see Jimmy given a chance? And he gets his chance, and then nobody's just like, well, he didn't score a hat-trick, so it doesn't matter. But that's a real positive thing to take from a shitty situation with Harrison having COVID, Raphinha's hips gone, Tyler Roberts isn't the answer, so we're having to bring on. We've loaned out Helder Costa, so we're down to the bare bones. But there's Somerville getting in the team, and that's a good thing. And I thought he was fine. We said on the match ball, it took a while to warm up, but then he was the third wheel of the Click Firpo chance right at the end. He is keeping the ball, worrying defenders, making that happen. So that was positive. And if, as we go through the season, more of those players start coming in, it's going to be good. We're not going to be relegated. We're probably going to end up finishing a little bit worse than we did last season. It feels like at the moment. I don't see any reason to think we're going to be 17th. And if we're not 17th, where are we in the Premier League? We're not going to be 6th. So what's the difference between 9th, 14th, 8th, 12th? I can keep
reading numbers,
listing these numbers, but we feel like, it feels to me like we're still heading for that, and then what will be, and we might score some really exciting goals along the way, and it might be fun to watch. Who was it that said in the midst of all this, all the feedback that we got, I can't find it now, but it was an exciting game, and that's good. Isn't it? Sometimes it's fun to watch an exciting match.
I think the second half was the frustration in it, because the first half did feel exciting, and again, I've lost it within the feedback. Someone saying that it felt like we were a little bit back to our old selves, and there was the same sort of attacking movement there, and the pressing felt like we were on it again, and we were actually going at them in a way that we haven't done this season. So there was some of that back. But then the second half, I guess Newcastle changed shape, and it did seem to fall flat a little bit.
But even then, second half is when there was the Bamford chance, and there was the one right at the end, and there was other. I always felt like we were doing more of the attacking, and it reminded me, as I put in my match report on the blog, that we were very used to games like that in the Championship, which is where Newcastle belong, where teams do just go into their shell, they're playing for a point, and we're trying to play our way through, and in the end we keep hammering on the door, and sometimes we get through, sometimes we don't, and sometimes you just take the point. And it's annoying because all the pre-match stuff about Newcastle falling apart didn't really come to pass. Not even their protest didn't really happen. The pressure on Bruce didn't really tell. I don't know if because of what Graham Jones is able to do, where they're letting Steve Bruce set them up as 3-5-2, and then 20 minutes in he's going, lads, do the thing we worked on in the afternoons after Bruce had gone home. Whether there's some of that happening.
Don't accuse Steve Bruce of not working hard enough, or he will shout at you at a press conference, won't he?
Remember when he was in Portugal and we did all the stuff? So it's frustrating that none of that really came to pass, and like the 7-0 win that we were all hoping for wasn't realised. But I think we played well, and the only difference between us and victory was Mike Dean and finishing.
And that wraps up this half of the propaganda video. Check out the other half of the video on YouTube, where we will find out what the Newcastle fans think.
The Square Ball Podcast.